Hello, in this video we are going to see how to create customer accounts UI extensions. Through these extensions we are going to be able to extend the new customer accounts page. So here I have a development store created, and from here I will go to settings, go to customer accounts, and from here make sure you have the new customer accounts enabled, because these extensions only work with these type of customer accounts. Next, from Visual Studio Code I'm going to run npm init Shopify app latest to create a new Shopify app that will have this extension. So I will just link this customer accounts, and I will select this, start by adding your first extension template. And then I'm going to take everything out of this folder and move it here, delete this, and run npm run Shopify app generate extension to generate the customer account extension. So I will select this as a new app. And then from here, I will look for customer account UI. This is in preview at the moment, but I will select this. And let's keep this name, and I will select TypeScript with React. Now let's wait for this to finish installing. After finishing with the installation, let's see what we have. So here inside of extensions, we go inside of customer account UI, inside of SRC, and we have these two files. Each one is targeting a different extension point in the customer account page. So now let's run this extension to see what these files are rendering. So from the console, I'm going to type npm run dev to open the extension locally. And I'm going to look for customer account store, which is the store we will be using throughout this video. And now let's press P to open this in the browser. I have to install the app first. So I will install this. And now let's go to the customer account page. For this, I will have to place an order. So let's do that first. So I place these three products in the cart, fill this checkout form, and over here, logged in with an account to use for this video. And now, let's click here on Pay Now. And let's refresh the page. Let's click on Continue Shopping, and over here, I'll click on the customer icon, the accounts icon. And I'm in the customer accounts page. Now, let's click on this to preview. And we can see how over here this full page button is what we have over here. Let's remove this translation because we don't need this. Let's just add here testing the button. Let's save this. And over here we see testing the button. So if I click on this, we are navigated to this full page extension. And over here you can see why. We are navigating to extension, and this is a special keyword to use over here that navigates you to the full page extension for this same app. Now that we saw that this is working, let's talk about what we will build in this video. So we will be adding a button over here, and when we click on it, it will navigate to the full page view of this extension, which will have the details of all of these products. This is just a demo, but it could be generally useful, as from here you don't really have a way to navigate to the product details page of any of these products, as these titles are not hyperlinks. And if I wanted to check the description of any of these products, I don't have a way to do it. Right here from the customer accounts page, I will have to go to the Storefront end and look for this product from there. But anyhow, the concept of the extension itself is simple, but the implementation is not that straightforward because of how we have to get such information. So that is what we will be seeing throughout this video. Now let's quickly go over how we are implementing this. So from the menu action extension over here, we are going to get the order ID somehow and pass that to the full page extension here. Now, why we are not getting the order ID from the full page extension directly? Well, as you are going to be able to see here, if I copy this and I paste that here, we are going to be able to see all of the different properties and variables that this full page extension has access to. And you can see here that order ID is not mentioned. However, if I do the same over here for the menu action extension and paste this here, we are going to see that order ID is present. So I can get the order ID just by doing this from the menu action extension. after getting the order ID, from the full page extension, I'm going to use that to query all the data for the different line items in this order and display that information here. So let's change the text here to say view products. And then let's update these two parameter here to use a query parameter. We're going to say order equals and order ID. Let's save this and let's see if this is working. So if I click on view products, I see here order and this Shopify ID here at the top. So I'm sending the order ID through query parameters. Now we're going to see how we can retrieve this in the full page extension. And now from the full page extension file, I'm going to get navigation from this use API hook, and I'm going to create a constant URL will be equal to new URL, and I'll say navigation.currententry.url, and then order ID would be equal to url.searchparams.get, and we are going to get the order parameter that we are sending from here. And now let's remove this and let's print the order ID in this banner. So here I see the order ID. Now let's get the products information over here. For this, we are going to be using the Customer Account API, which is the API that gives us access to this information in Checkout UI extensions. You can see here that the authentication process for this API has all of these steps, but fortunately, Shopify has simplified this process for these type of extensions. So let's see how to do that. First, I'm going to import from React, use state, and use effect. Then here, I will open a use effect with an empty array to run it at the beginning. And I will have an asynchronous function, get products data. And from here, I'm going to query this API. So let's do order products query. And this will just use regular fetch. However, we are going to use a special URL here. So customer account API. In this case, I will use unstable because customer accounts checkout UI extensions are still in preview, but over here, you should be able to replace this with the version of the API that you are using. And then GraphQL JSON. From here, this is a post request, so I will say just that. And the headers are just content type application JSON. And Shopify will take care of adding the remaining authentication steps. Then from here, we will add the body of the request. So I will do JSON.stringify. And here I need to pass the query property. And the value of this would be my query to this API. So order, and I want to get the order with this order ID. I have to close this, and then I want to get the line items. For this example, I will just get the first 10. Then I want to do edges, node, and I want to get the ID for this line item, the title, the product ID, the variant ID, the image, and from the image, I want to get the URL. So let's save this. And now let's collapse this, and let's just get the result and see what we get. So order product query, the JSON, and let's print this. Before that, we have to here call this function, get products data. And here we have an error. This is related to using promises here because it is not supported in this ES version. We can quickly fix this, and we should use here the lib option and select here ES 2015 and also pass the DOM parameter here so we don't get errors related to DOM APIs being missing. When we save this, the error we saw a moment ago should be gone. Now let's go to the browser and see what we have there. So from here, let's refresh the page, open the console, And here we have an object. We already see that there is an error key, and it says level 1 protected customer data is required to access what we are trying to access. So let's see how we can solve this error. From the partners dashboard over here, I will go to the apps section, and in this list, I will find the app that I'm using. In this case, customer accounts. I will click on it, and then I will select API access over here. From here, I will look for protected customer data access. In this case, I had already started this, but you will see something like request access. I will click on manage here. And you should read all of this carefully. However, as I am installing this in a development store, I just have to, from this step 1, select my use case. In this case, I will just say app functionality and click on save. And that should be enough. But if you're going to distribute this through the Shopify App Store, you should read all of these carefully and select the ones that apply to you, plus check all of these points as well. Now let's go back to the app. Let's refresh the page again. Let's open the console and let's see what we have now. There is an error, but this is because now we have to request access for this scope. So let's copy this exactly like that. And let's go to shopify.app.toml and paste this here. I will have to shut down the development server and run npm run deploy for these changes to take effect. Over here, we see what we changed, the access scopes. So this is being released as a new version. And now when I run npm run dev again, I will be prompted to reinstall the app for the permissions to take effect. So let's press P here. And when I click on install the app, we see the updated permissions now. So let's update this. And now from here, I will click on this. Now I click on this, open up the console, and I see this object here that contains all of the data that I requested. So we get the ID, the image URL, the product ID, the title, and the variant ID. So after granting all of the permissions we needed, this query we tried to access here is finally working. Now you might be noticing that over here we requested a bunch of IDs, but we did not request a product description, which is one of the things I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I wanted to display in this full page extension. The reason for that is because if we go here to the order object in this Customer Account API, we are going to see that in line items, over here, line items, there is no description property. So if I look for description in the page, we're going to see that it is not present. And that is because this line item object doesn't have that property. It also doesn't have a product object we can query. So what we have to do instead is to grab this product ID and query the Storefront API to get the missing parts of this product data, which is what we're going to do next. So first, I will remove this extension from here and get the query property, which is what will let me query the Storefront API. Then from here, I'm going to check if result.data. Let's use optional chaining here. If result.data.order, then we are going to do for const product edge of result.data.order.line items dot edges, and let's do product query will be equal to await query, and we are going to run a simple query here, product, where the ID is product edge at node.product ID. And from this we want to get a description, and we also will need the product handle, so let's get that. This is not the most efficient way to run this query. There are ways to run this in a batch, but to keep things simple, let's just leave this like this. And here I will do product edge.node.description is equal to product query.data.product.description and product edge.node dot handle is equal to product edge dot data dot product dot handle. Let's check here that this exists, so this doesn't complain. So if we have this, and if we have product, then we're going to run this. We will fix the typing in a moment. But for now, let's create a state here, products, so products, and use a state. And this will start as an empty object. We will give this a type in a moment. So then, after this for loop, I will do set products. This will be equal to result the data dot order dot line items dot edges. We will map this. We get the edge, and we return edge dot node to have this structure be as simple as possible when we try to access it here. And then we will do if products dot length is equal to 0, we're going to return null, or we can change this to a loading indicator. But then if there is data, we are going to do products dot map product, and for now we are just going to return. Let's return a fragment here. Let's import text from here, return product.title and text product.description. We have a few errors, but let's see what we get in the browser. So here, let's refresh this page. This is the old one. Let's go here. Let's refresh. We are still getting this mapping over here. We need identities instead. Let's refresh. And we are not getting anything because it cannot read product. Let's see what the error is. So there was an error here. I'm trying to use product edge and it should be product query. After saving this, I go back to the page. I see the 3 products and their description, which were generated using Shopify's AI features. So let's quickly add types here. First, let's add a type for this query. I'll use the product description, which is a string, and then handle, which is a string, and that got rid of the errors we were seeing here. And then let's add a type at the top here, line item, and this will have all of these properties we see here. So ID will be a string, title will be a string, product ID will be a string, variant ID will be a string, and then we have the image, which is an object. We have the URL, which is a string, although all of this is optional because a product could very well not have an image, but for this example, let's assume it does. And let's also query the alt text for the image. So I'll do here alt text, which is also a string. And let's add this to the query over here. And then let's say that the type of this is line item in an array. And now from here, let's start. Actually, we also have to add description as a string and handle as a string, because even though we're not querying down directly from here, we end up adding down later in this part of the code. So let's save. And let's see, I can refresh this page. And I get my data after a moment. So all of this is working now. Let's build a UI for this. So like in checkout UI extensions, we are also limited to just using the components Shopify provides, meaning that if we try to render HTML, we will just get an error. In this case, as mentioned over here, we have access to all the components available in checkout UI extensions. So everything you see here, plus also these 8 components which are specific to customer accounts UI extensions. So let's start by fixing the title here. Let's remove this and let's change this to be product details. Then we don't need this banner, so let's remove it. And now let's wrap all of this in a grid. Make sure you're importing this from the customer account library. And let's paste this here. And now for columns, let's say that we want to have 50% and 50%. So just 2 columns. The spacing here will be base. And the rows, let's set this to auto. And over here, this appears to be working, but we have to wrap this in a grid item for it to be respecting these columns. So now we have 2 columns per row, but this isn't looking right. So let's now wrap all of this in a card component, which is specific for customer account UI extensions. And let's give this card some padding, which is just a Boolean property. And here we have this looking much better. Now, the title should be a heading, so let's import this from here. And now there is more distinction between the description and the title's text. And let's wrap all of this in a block stack. So I call block layout, it should be block stack. And from here, I will give this a spacing of tight. And now let's add here a view for the image. So let's import an image from here. This image, let's say that the source is product, that image, that URL, and the accessibility description, which is the alt text, will be product.image alt text. And then from here, it looks like we imported this from the wrong library. Let's try again. Let's give this a max inline size of 120. Let's see what we have. So this is now looking better. We have the image at the top. Let's give the image a border radius of base and a border of also base. Remember, we cannot control the colors here. We can just use these tokens. So whatever this store has chosen as its base color will show here. In this case, it is this gray. And now below this block stack, let's add a block spacer. Let's just set the spacing here as tight. And we will add a button. And let's make sure we are importing this from the correct library. So from customer account here. Again, let's import it. Was it already imported? Well, let's import the manually button. And then let's add it over here. So we will have a button. And then we just say view product here. Let's see what we have. So we have this button here. The reason I added the button here after the block stack instead of inside of it is because if I add it inside, we have this taking the full width, which is not what we want. So I added this below instead. Now that we have this, let's make this button do something, because right now if I click on this, it will not do anything. So for this, I have to send the to property here to the product URL. So for this, I will say HTTPS shop URL, which is a variable I have not declared yet, products. Here we will use the product.handle property we queried, then variant, and here we will use product.variant ID. Now, how do I get the shop URL? Well, from here, there is a convenient use shop hook, which we could try to use. So let's see, const shop URL will be equal to use shop. And if I try saving this, nothing shows. The reason for that is because if I refresh this page, I will see here an error that I cannot access shop because this target cannot use this use shop hook. So we have to get the shop URL in another way. Let's see how to do that. And the solution to this is very simple. From the Storefront API, we are going to query the shop object and access the primary domain URL fields. Remember, the Storefront API is different from the Customer Account API, which we were also using a moment ago in this video, even though both pages look roughly the same. The objects they expose and the way to access them are different. So let's go back to the code here, and let's remove this. And then over here, we are going to create another function. So async function, get shop URL. From here, we are going to say shop query, and this will be equal to await query. And we will get the shop primary domain URL. Let's give this a type. This will have of type shop primary domain URL, and URL is a string. And let's create a state to store this. So URL, set URL. Okay, we have to maybe use shop URL, set shop URL, and this will be equal to use state, and this will start empty. And then over here, we're going to say set the shop URL will be equal to shop query, the data, the shop, dot primary domain dot URL. And from here, we could remove all of this and just use shop URL. Let's save this and let's see what we have. And there is one last thing I forgot to add, which is get shop URL. We have to call this function from here. So now if I click on view product for this one, I view the details for this product. I can go back, click on this one, and the same, I get the details for this other product. Now, there are a couple of other things we can fix here, starting with the variant ID. Actually, we are using the global ID Shopify generates. You can see that at the bottom. But the product pages here actually use a different type of variant ID. They just use the numeric part of that. So what we can do here is split this ID by this backslash and just get the last part, which always will be the numeric part. And now if I click on the product here, the variant parameter gets populated correctly. Let's go back. And here you see that this takes a moment to load. So let's add here a spinner to indicate that there is something happening. Imported this from the wrong one. Well, we don't see the parameters. That's usually what happens. So let's import this from here. And let's make this large, maybe. Let's see what we get. Let's refresh. It takes a moment, but then we have that. So that is working. And something else we can fix is how this looks like on mobile. So you can see here that it is using 2 columns, but it should just use 1 because there isn't enough space for 2 columns to fit properly here. So what we can do is use the style helper, which is how we do responsive styling for checkout UI extensions and customer account UI extensions. So let's import the style from here. And then here, let's do style.default. And by default, it will have just a single column that will take 100%. But then when viewport inline size, so the horizontal size, in this case, has a minimum width of medium, we are going to have 50% and 50%. So 2 columns of a 50% with each one. And if we go here, on mobile, we have a single column. And on desktop, we have 2 columns. I have a video going over how the style helper works. I'll leave that in the video description in case you end up finding this syntax confusing. Finally, something else you can do is clean up this order parameter over here by removing the GID Shopify order part and just keeping the numeric value. Shopify does the same for the variant ID in the product page. To do this, over here you will have to split this order ID value by this backslash and just take the last part as we did earlier in the video, precisely with the variant ID right here. Then from this full page extension component, you will have to re-add it over here. You will have to add once again GID Shopify order to be able to perform this query. And lastly, I placed another order in here just so we can see that it works even when there are multiple orders as expected. So I can click on new products for any of these orders and I get the details for both. So there you have it. This is how you create customer account UI extensions that query the different APIs we have available here. Let me know down in the comments, do you find these extensions useful? Are they missing any feature you'd like to see included? And after that, that's it for this video. If you found it helpful, remember to like and subscribe for more Shopify related content, and I will see you all in the next one.